Hi, this is Nick Huston here for Gotham Sound and Communications. Thanks for tuning in. I am here with Geoff from Wisycom USA. Hi, Geoff.
Hey, Nick, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing beautifully.
Good. So Geoff and I have pre-recorded a video about the MRK16, as you can see here in split screen. We are going to show the video first, and then we will come back and answer any questions that you might have. So let's roll the film. Hi, this is Nick Huston here for Gotham Sound and Communications, Gotham TV. I'm here with Geoff Baynard from Wisycom, and we are talking about the newest thingamajig from Wisycom, the MRK16. How are you, Geoff?
Oh, Nick, I'm doing well. It's beautiful. A little snowy here in Virginia, but it's a beautiful day, and I'm glad to be here.
It looks awfully purple where you are.
Well, welcome to my basement home office, as my wife calls it, the lair.
Very nice. Well, as you can see, we have a little fire behind this this setup here, so it's nice and cozy. And it's apparently going to snow here tomorrow, so very exciting. So Geoff, tell me about the MRK16. What's the thingamajig?
So this is the MRK16. It's really the latest addition to what we call our Symphony product family. So this is a lot of powerful features combined together. And so the MRK16 is a 1RU slot tray for the MCR54. And the MCR54, as you know, and many people have seen, is our flagship receiver, a slot-in 4-channel true diversity multi-band receiver. Yeah, it's a receiver we've released in the last year or so, and it's really become the flagship of our Symphony product line. And so we took and expanded the capabilities by putting it into a 1RU rack tray. The phrase we use is expanding your reach without expanding your footprint.
And just to briefly say, the MCR54 it's a 4-channel slot receiver, and I'm sorry, I feel like you said that already, but I just want to harp on that for a second, because I think that is pretty cool, having that kind of density and having a screen.
Yeah, and it's 4-channel. It's also true diversity and multiband. So the MCR54 spans from 470 megahertz all the way through 960 megahertz. And that's, for a lot of the people, that's a lot of the available spectrum in the US, really all of the available spectrum in one box. So no longer do you have to go and say, well, will this set of spectrum work in this city or will this work here? It's a peace of mind that you have one piece of equipment that travels anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world with you, that you can confidently go into that city and know, I'm going to be able to find frequencies, I'm going to be able to do the job I have to do.
Cool. And so connecting this to the MRK16 is pretty simple. So I have here an MCR54 front and back, and on most slot receivers you would say, where's the back plate? But on this one, there isn't one.
Yeah, since we designed the receiver and the tray, we designed the receiver in mind knowing that we had this tray coming. So on the back of it, you'll see it's got the 2 antenna connections and a data connection port. So you'll be able to just slide it straight in the MRK16. All of your data and audio will pass through, as well as the antenna connection, so you can keep the front looking very clean without any cables going back and forth.
Got it. So I don't know if we can show camera 1 right now, but you can see this is the front of the MRK16. I will try and focus. There we go. And maybe even zoom out a tiny bit. There you go. So that's the whole thing right there. And so as you can see, this is pretty easy to pull in and out. There are 2 screws in the front, which I will not screw in. So I will just try not to tip it upside down or anything like that while we're talking. Power switch is here, so we'll just power it on.
And as you do that, we'll just make a note. Just as always, a recommendation, if you're going to take any units in or out, power your device down first, as Nick has done.
Yeah, it's kind of like ejecting hard drives back in the day. You got to make sure that they're ejected before you pull them out of the computer.
So you'll see it powers right up, and now you've got 16 channels locked and loaded in your cart.
Yep, and no connections on the front. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so you talked about multiband. We know that the MCR54 has high density built in, so to be able to really pack in the frequencies. Let's talk about the connectivity on the back.
Yeah, so there's a lot of connectivity, and there's audio, and then there's network connectivity. We'll start with network, because there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff this device can do on its own. First of all, it is Dante compatible, which is a growing, digital audio over IP protocol that's becoming more and more popular in the pro audio world and a lot of other places. And so this has 4 ports you see on the back, a couple noted for control and a couple of them noted for Dante. But it also has the capability of taking PoE++ input, so you can, with a compatible switch, have a 3rd and 4th point of redundant power input, or get PoE out to drive an access point or a switch, any number of configurations to fit what you're looking for on your particular show.
Okay, and if I can get a shot of camera 1 up, just so I can show the close-up on this. So here we've got the Dante ports down here. We've got the PoE ports up here, and this also implies that there's control. So from Wisycom Manager, that you will be able to control this from a laptop if you want.
Yeah. And so it's got we've got a newer version of Wisycom Manager coming out a little later this year that'll have full support for the MRK16. I've used the beta as some testing for a show I was on a couple of weeks ago, and it's a phenomenally well planned and well done system for controlling all of your MCR54s inside of your MRK.
Mm-hmm. And then you said we were talking about it's got USB too. Can you also connect to the manager through that instead of network?
Yeah, you can also connect via that to your manager on your Windows PC.
Awesome. And then this PoE port, the idea is that rather than running long things, you could just have a pod on set or wherever it is you have your wireless, send a couple of lines Dante and PoE back, and you're good.
Yeah. It's really a system that gives you a lot of versatility in how you connect it, so you can make the system work the way you want, not conform to how it wants to be.
And speaking of things, long runs, you did mention fiber, I believe. So that's this port right here.
Yeah. So this is a bit that we're really excited about. Is we've added this expansion card that ships by default with all the MRK16s that's got this optical input. And so what that does is it works with another device we've got coming out a little later this year. That's basically, if you're familiar with our BFA or our LFA antennas, it's a remote controllable filtered antenna. And so what this is about the size of a BFA, but it's got a fiber output. Mm-hmm. So you can connect an antenna in via BNC connector or N-type, and then go out via ST or SC fiber back to your MRK16. So you can easily cover a huge amount of space without having to run long copper runs. Because as you know, copper tops out at 400, 500 feet if you're using good heavy cable.
Mm-hmm. And what's the max range on fiber? Just
fiber, easily you'll cover miles and miles without having any trouble.
It's a lot of fiber. Okay, and then also, in terms of standard connections, we do have 4 BNC inputs, so for an A zone and a B zone.
Yeah, so what that allows you to do if you're covering multiple sites, like, for example, New York, maybe you're in a show where you've got to cover some stuff on the street, but then your actors go down under into the subway tunnel, and it's the easiest thing to do would be deploy a second zone for antennas down in the subway so they can walk from one to the other without having to carry a bag, chase them down, do anything else. You can just easily expand your coverage.
Cool. And then you do have loop outs for everything as well. So if you needed 32 channels, you could loop out into a second MRK. Yeah,
and you can use that same loop out to go to a 3rd and 4th. So you can do theoretically 64 channels without having to add a multi-coupler in.
Oh, goodness, please no. Okay, great. And then we do have some standard AES-3 in and out. What the heck is that for?
That's for some functionality that's going to come in later, in how you can route audio and monitoring with the MRK16.
Great, and you did, should mention that it does have, in addition to all the digital connectivity, it does have good old analog outputs. So that's the Tascam wiring.
Yep.
Right, and then this is a GPIO control.
Yeah, it's a GPIO for when you want to get and do some really creative applications with your MRKs.
Great. And then let's talk, so we've talked about most of the buttons and switches, or most of the switches and things. This guy says Bluetooth. Talk a little bit about the Bluetooth functionality on this and the MCR54.
So this Bluetooth functionality is what works within a lot of our new Symphony transmitters, including the well sought after the MTP60. So with our new Symphony transmitters, including the receivers for the MCR54 and MRK16, we have a Bluetooth antenna or Bluetooth connectivity in each of these. And these are class 1 Bluetooth, so 100 milliwatt, which will get you easily 100 meters or more. And what this will let you do is remote control the parameters of your MTP60s to include your gain, your power setting, your frequency, all from your MRK16 or from your phone or manager, however you've set your system up.
So there is an app coming for the phone that'll connect Bluetooth, and then that will contact the receivers. The receivers will tell the MRK, hey, change this paired transmitter to frequency 1.4, blah, 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 blah. Not 1.4. Nothing starts with 1.4, but yeah.
We don't have anything in VHF, but you can change it to, anything from 470 through 960 in the US.
Right, and that's everything that's legal is what Wisycom offers in terms of analog transmission or UHF transmission.
Yeah, and
right?
in the way it goes in the US, there's such limited spectrum in a lot of places that you may find yourself wanting to, put half your wireless down in UHF, half of it up in the STL, and with the Wisycom, you can easily, move your wireless wherever you need it to fit your scenario.
Now, it does mention that this has some filtering built into it, and will it filter between, let's say something that's down in 470 and something that's 900, or how does that work?
So the way that works, I'll show you. I have a slide for this. I thought you were going to ask about this. Inside of the MRK16, it's got a bunch of filter options, as you can see, and what this does is it will automatically select the best filters for where the frequencies are of your MCR54s. So if all of your frequencies are between, about 530 and 608, then it'll put your high pass to 510 and your low pass to 608. And it'll adjust automatically to keep the filter as tight as possible on the MRK, so that you've got filtering on the MRK, you've got filtering on the MCR54, and if you're using our Wisycom smart antennas, you've also got filtering on the antennas.
Got it. So you can really tune things in and not really, and because it's got multiple layers of filtering, you can really tune it in at the receiver and be able to have a lot of stuff coming in if you want.
Yeah, and that's, a lot of the fundamental of how we look at wireless is filtering is hugely helpful, especially if you have IFBs running or two-way radios, is to just start by filtering those out. And now you've already started cleaning up the signal that your receivers are getting in.
Got it. Cool.
So something we're going to look at, what I was thinking is to look at a couple of application examples of shows that we've kind of looked at, been asked about, and how we would solve them using the MRK. So this is one of, this is loosely referenced off a show, a mutual friend of ours, Josh Baggett. I'm looking for my mug.
This is his company, just to be...
I'm looking for my mug too, Josh. Something that a show he put together and we helped him on is his cart and his whole setup was about 1,500 feet away in the Video Village or production area. And so, at 1,500 feet, it's way too much to run copper. So we looked and said, well, this will be the optical way best way to do it is to have the fiber BFAs back over the glass, because they're already running tactical multi-core fiber for the cameras, for whatever else. Another couple strands for your antennas is not a big deal. Drop it in, you can be 1,500 feet away without any problems and get all your received channels.
And in terms of other applications, as you said, multi-zone, so if you do have a larger set where you need a set of antennas in one place, another set of antennas in another place, you can do 2 zones automatically, or you can expand with some of the other Wisycom line and add more zones, 8 zones, 4 zones, whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah, for another show similar in ideas, you have to do a reality show, call it whatever, that they need 24 lav mics and 8 plant mics, but you need to cover an inside living room plus the pool. Now you just take your MRK, you've got 2 copper inputs via BNC, you cover both zones, loop out to your second MRK, and you're set to go. And you have remote control of all your Wizy smart antennas, so you can manage all 32 channels from the comfort of your cart, wherever that cart may be.
giving me anxiety just talking about it.
Oh,
Okay.
if that's anxiety, then we'll look at your favorite, that I'm sure you'd love to do is 64 channels of instruments, and you just have to cover a center stage. Again, super easy. Cover it in, loop them, cascade them out, and you got 64 channels.
Great. I think the most I ever did was 48. That was enough for me, but we'll see. All right, well, let's just look a little bit on the front here, because I do just want to show off some of the lights, because people like lights. So let me just get this set. All right, so we do have the power switch. We've got a headphone port here, which you can see. Power switch, multifunction knob, right?
Yep.
And then we've got some lights. So this is just saying that there are four MCR54 receivers in. Is that right?
So that has to do with your antenna input zones.
So is this bias power being applied?
That's just showing you've got all 4 antennas active. The next set of LEDs is in reference to the boosters or the bias. And the next set is in reference to which power inputs you have. Since you're just running a single DC input, it'll just have the one. But if you were running the redundant DC, which would be the other 2 pins of that XLR4, the second LED would show up, and then the same for the PoE if you're running PoE++ in.
Oh, that's neat. So you can, so on this 4-pin, you can actually put 2 different 4-pin, like 2 different DC powered sources.
Yeah, because it only requires 2 of the pins. So you get your favorite professional dealer to solder the other 2 pins in, and now you've got a redundant power supply with 2 separate DC bricks.
Perfect. Yeah, Geoff, you can make those cables for people, right? You personally.
I have made that cable. I am good at many things in my life. I do not like soldering. I'm not terribly good at it, but it was a very good cable.
Good. So let's just talk about this rotary knob for a minute. So as you can see, right now it's used as a volume knob. So I can scroll back and forth between receiver 1 and 2, 3 and 4, all of the different receivers here, and then go in and make and change the volume. And then, as you said, you were telling me before, I got a little sneak preview. To control the MRK settings, I push and hold this, and now I see all the MRK settings. So I can look at the controls for zone 1, if I want to use the A antenna or the B antenna or both, the booster, check out the status, whether or not it's on, and then we've got the networking stuff here, which I won't get too far into, but basically just to make sure it's part of your network. And then I'm using this, to go back to toggle back and forth between all of the different receivers on all the MCR54s.
Yeah, it's a nice little thing to quickly monitor along the way if you need just troubleshooting, figuring out what's going on. It's got all the ability built in right there.
Now, if I'm not controlling this from the phone or from a computer, am I actually controlling the frequencies from the MCR54, or am I doing it through the okay? So the MRK16 is just for monitoring and distribution.
Correct. Yeah, if you're changing frequencies without using Manager, you would do it all in the front panels of the MCR54s individually. And then the MRK16 would manage more of the work for the unit itself, like your antenna zones, bias, anything like that.
Cool. And then and you really would want to go through the Manager, because the Manager is going to do all your RF coordination, scanning, and things like that.
Yeah, it's something that once you're getting up there into that 8, 12, 16 channels, it's doable without Manager, but it gets a lot easier to see all of it in one screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for this is something that's going to be cart-based. So if you have a cart, most likely you can have a laptop or a Windows tablet or something like that running Manager.
Yeah, and we've got the iOS version and Android version coming soon that will have the full management for the MRK16.
So I can have it in the background while I'm watching Netflix.
I mean, I don't know how you run your shows, but I'm, something like that.
It's usually Hulu, but anyway. So Geoff,
looking for that endorsement.
Yeah, exactly. We have green up. Anything we missed about the functionality of this? I feel like we covered it pretty well.
No, I was just looking through. I think we covered really everything in there. it's a lot of device to do a lot of things. You know, it's a lot of opportunity based in one box.
Yeah, it's something that if you're looking to start a cart that's expandable and you don't want to have a cart that's, that's too big or too heavy, you could start with 4 channels or 8 channels and then expand, when you're ready to 12 channels and 16 and keep it all in that same form factor. So I do think that is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and especially for when you've got situations where you're in your cart, but you've rapidly got to switch to a bag for a one-off bit, you can pull one of those out, pop a DB25 on it and go straight in your SL2, and now you're off to the races in your bag quickly without having to have a whole second setup. So you can save yourself a couple dollars and get a little bit more out of it.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just demonstrate that. I know we talked about putting it in, but to take it out, just power off the MRK16, which is, ideally your cart is probably powering down anyway as you get ready to go to the bag. You would pull this out, and then you would put your back plate on here, and then it could just go right into the SL2. And if everything's pre-configured, you're ready to go. So it really is there are 2 screws here. I mean, if you're going real slow, 5 minutes?
Yeah, and something that we changed on the MCR54 that is different from our MCR42, our previous gen, that you may be familiar with, and some people may, is on the previous gen, it was 4 of the smallest screws I've ever seen in my life to attach the back plate. And on the 54, we said, well, that was, that can be improved. So now to pop the DB25 or just the TA5 output is 2 big screws that are physically mounted to the back plate. So it's, as you said, probably 5 minutes or less. RF connectivity for the MCR54 is on the back of the receiver. So when you slot in or out of the MRK16, you don't have to use any backplates or fumble with any SMA connectors on the front or little cables. It's slot in, 2 screws, power on, and you're good to go.
So this unit's actually here, and it's not the only one in the US. So what's the availability like on these right now?
These are actively in production and shipping. We shipped the first couple right at the beginning of the year, and we've got more scheduled to hit the dock in really a couple every month over the next, probably for the rest of the year.
Got it. Okay. So if you're ready to go Wisycom, get in line and get ready.
Yeah.
And scene. Okay. Geoff, thank you for doing that. So now we'll take a look at the questions that we have in the comments. And if you have any new questions, please feel free to add them now. But first question, are the US and the EU versions compatible? Will they work together?
Yeah, so what that references to, for anyone less familiar, and I'm making some assumptions on the question here, that there's a United States version of the MCR54 and the EU and some other countries. Since the available spectrums shift a little bit, for example, 940 and 60 is only available in the US and Canada. But as far as the hardware, you could use a US MCR54 with an EU or from any other country. The MRK will adjust your filters to match your operating range that you're utilizing.
So the filtering in the MRK is global, and then it will adjust itself to be more specific.
Yeah, there's some specifics in the filter ranges that are a little different in how we set for the US versus other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. For example, the UK uses some stuff in the 800s, which is not really valuable here. Mm-hmm. So there's just some differences in specific filters.
Got it. But the MRK's got it all. It just will narrow it down based on what you actually can use.
Yeah, the filters within the MRK will always bring it to as a small a range as it can to keep all your frequencies inside of it.
Got it. Makes sense. And that goes back to that chart you were talking about in the pre-recorded video.
Yeah.
Okay. And so next question, does the MRK16 support Wave Tool?
As far as I believe, yes. I've not confirmed with the team on this, but Wave Tool is a Dante functionality, and since we fully support Dante and the protocols of Dante, it should work without any issue.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Geoff, I think we must have done a fabulous job explaining everything in the video because there are no questions. It's also the middle of the day on a Wednesday, and we haven't done one of these in such a long time.
I know. Well, I can tell you that our entire Italian team has been texting me, and they all send their hellos, and hope to see everyone soon.
Cool. All right, we do have a couple more rolling in, so I guess we'll keep it chatty. So can you control the LFA remotely from the MRK?
Yes. The MRK9 or MRK16 has the full control protocols for any of our smart antennas. LFA, ADFA, BFA would all be controllable from your MRK16.
And that goes for both things that are hardwired or over fiber, is that right?
The fiber will be a little different. The fibers, there's going to be ultimately a couple versions of the fiber box. Because it's over the glass, it's a little different, but there will be a version that has an SFP module. Ultimately, there will be a remote control, but it'll be a little different than controlling the LFAs.
Got it. Okay, so hardwired BNC connectors, ADFA, or even the LBNA as well.
Not the
right?
LBNAs. No, just
the
LFA, ADFA, and BFA.
Got it. So all the filtered ones have the control. Okay. And does it come with a fiber card? Yes. I mean, this is the default option is with the fiber card, as we saw in the video, right?
Yeah, as time goes on, there will be some other different, we call this one, I believe offhand, this is the EXP2, because there's a few different versions that we've made for different applications, different things. This is kind of what we, at least here in the US, have looked at as, well, what should we make the default option to make it easy to order, easy for you guys, easy for customers that, I know part numbers can get confusing if you're not in. So we said, well, let's make it easy. Let's make it straightforward. Let's have all the pieces you need kind of from the get-go.
All right, so here's a question. I think I know the answer to this, but when using the MRK16, would it be compatible with Electrosonics transmitters? So for transmitters, that's really based on what the receiver can do. And
Correct.
There is some compatibility modes with Electro transmitters that will work with the Wisycom receivers, right?
Yeah, the Wisycom with Digicom, which comes default on all of our MCR54s and really all of our receivers at this stage, has a lot of functionality for other manufacturers' modulation schemes for analog transmitters. Digital, it won't work, but for a lot of analogs, you can switch into those modes and find a mutual mode that works to pass audio.
Right, and just to bring it to the next logical step, this will only work with Wisycom receivers because of the proprietary backplate.
Correct. Yeah, we since we designed this to deal with having the antenna connectors on the back and the smaller connector, the only receivers that will work with it are the Wisycom MCR54 receivers.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, because then there's no. Let me go to the rear cam. But yeah, as we can see on here, there's no antenna connectors on the front. There's no cables or anything like that coming out. So any other manufacturers don't have, everything's on the front, so it would not be compatible, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool.
And, I did.
All right. Let's see. Talk a little bit more about the Bluetooth remote.
So the Bluetooth remote is functionality that we're working on and actively developing. Italy sent me an updated app to kind of take a look at actually earlier this morning. But what the Bluetooth functionality will do is from your MCR54 or from your phone, you would be able to control the parameters of your MTP60s or Symphony transmitters. Specifically, that's just the MTP60 and RPU 500 for right now. But that would let you manage your gain, your RF power, and your frequency.
And does the signal actually transmit from the MRK16, or is that your phone direct to the transmitter and the receiver, or is it, the MRK16 is paired directly with the transmitter?
It would be dependent on how you set it up. You could do it through your phone, or it would, as I got some clarification on this, as when I spoke with Italy this morning, is it would be the MCR54 controlling your MTPs, but it would be through the MRK, because the MRK antenna you'd be able to get up a bit higher and clear all the noise and resistance of your cart.
Right, and I'll show the rear again. I know we talked about this in the video, but you do have this external Bluetooth antenna right here. So this would be the antenna that's controlling it through the MRK. So MCR54 to the MRK to your transmitter. right?
Yep, correct.
Cool. Awesome. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Would other antennas from other manufacturers work with the MRK16? Absolutely. 100%. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, and I'll answer it this way. Wisycom antennas are very similar to a lot of antennas in that if it's RF, it's RF. It passes through. Your whether it works tends to do a lot more with your receiver and transmitter combination.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the Wisycom. Yeah, I think the only thing, besides obviously we know the Wisycom antennas are really high quality, but the only benefit you get with using Wisycom antennas with this is that control functionality if we're using the filtered active antennas, right?
There's a lot of Wisycom antennas are great, just physical builds, but having the remote control functionality for gain and filtering is once you use it, it becomes massively helpful to not have to run 300, 400 feet away to bump the gain up a little bit or down or change settings.
I like that the way that it's constructed kind of looks like teeth if you look at it from if you flip it on its side pointing down. It's got that point. Never mind. Okay. What else do we have? Does it work with real-time positioning for the MTP60?
And you were really hitting us with the...
Well, we're not talking about the MTP60 right now, so that could be another question for another day if that's something you need to punt.
So I'll answer this very broadly. Real-time positioning is a feature that the MRK16 is a supporting factor of. The real-time positioning requires some antennas different from the LFAs. There's some positioning antennas that we're going to come and talk about, and we'll do a whole video with Nick later on once that's a little bit more packaged in a way that we can tell you about it. It's in R&D. I've seen it work. It's incredibly cool, but it's just we don't make sure it's packaged and explained in a way that is easy to understand.
Do you want to say a little bit about what that is? Because we haven't, we've asked the question, but we haven't said exactly what that does. It's probably in the name, but go right ahead. Yeah,
so what happens is with the Bluetooth that's built into the MTP60s and all of our new Symphony transmitters, it's got a three-axis accelerometer so that you can in real time pinpoint where your transmitter is in a three-dimensional space. This gives you eventually the ability to map out your studio or wherever you are to add some automations, as in, when I go to the restroom, I'm going to go ahead and mute the audio and hit it with that haptic feedback that, hey, you're off, or I'm going in the studio, I'm going live. Hit it with haptic to let you know, hey, you're live.
Okay. So for news or again something studio-based or even reality television, where if there is a sacred space, they can have that privacy and not worry about turning things on and off.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of functionality to come with it that we'll definitely talk about a bit later this year, because I know Italy has been very, very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. It's a lot of very cool stuff.
All right, so coming soon. Can you talk a little bit more about the push-to-talk mode for Wizy transmitters? All right, so again, this is not quite part of the MRK16, but if you want to talk about it, Geoff, by all means.
Yeah, there's the push-to-talk for specifically on we have what we call the MTH410, which is our handheld. We have a push-to-talk button that allows you to basically route your audio from being a main output to being a secondary output. So you can have your primary go to your program feed and a second just to producers or your control room. And very similarly, functionality for that is in progress for the body packs to do things like that with MCR and MRK.
So you could do that. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the MCR or MRK, as long as there are multiple audio outputs that are available, you can program one to be the push-to-talk of it.
Yeah. That's already developed and deployed in our MRK980, the Studio 2-channel rack mount, and some of its predecessors. The functionality for that for the MCR and MRK is in development. It'll be probably a bit later on in a firmware update.
Got it. Okay, let's see what else we got. All right, no real questions. There's obviously some the location-based stuff. People are interested to see how well that works, which, coming soon down the line, we'll all figure out how that works and how accurate it is. But I do remember, did you ever watch Independence Day?
I did.
Yeah, you remember how they like triangulated the signal to figure out exactly where the president is? That's this, right? That's the whole thing.
I think we're thinking of different. You're talking about the one where Will Smith flies the alien ship into the other alien ship? Or are we
Yeah,
thinking
but
of
I think Judd
Independence Day?
Hirsch goes with Jeff Goldblum to the White House to find the president. And they like, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But triangulating the signal, I'm pretty sure Jeff Goldblum. And is it Judd Hirsch? I don't know, whatever. I didn't see the most recent one. All right, Geoff, we'll hang out for another couple minutes here and see if anything else comes through. Is there anything that you, in watching the video or in this conversation that we had today, that you want to add? I have one thing I want to add because I apparently can't read, but I'm going to switch to the rear camera. And if you remember, I was asking about the lights, and it's very hard to see just with the lighting here, but the lights where I was like, oh, this is receivers and this is antennas, it's actually labeled. So it says antenna matrix and antenna booster. So matrix being the antennas being on, booster being the power being on, and then everything's actually labeled. So you don't have to guess, you don't have to go back to the manual or anything like that, which is good. It's nice that it's labeled.
Yeah, and we tried to make it very simple. And the value of being able to turn a zone on and off is, for example, if you're doing a show where you've got your main space and then, kind of a green room, you can, or an outside space, if they're doing the scene outside, you can turn on, but when it's not, you can kill that zone to reduce your overall like RF noise coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes perfect sense.
There's a lot of places and things you can utilize this.
So this question is I think maybe we're talking about Bluetooth here, but this question says, is there full ShowLink functionality built into this, or is there a separate box for that? So ShowLink is the Shore remote control protocol. So I assume they're talking about the Bluetooth functionality that Wisycom uses. Was that your impression?
Yeah, because ShowLink is a functionality of another manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bluetooth is built in. The actual remote control is going to come in a firmware update for all of this a bit later on. So the MTP60 will likely ship a bit sooner than some of the support for Bluetooth management. But it's all built in via the Bluetooth.
Right, and there is that separate port on the back, which I will just show again. That shows the Bluetooth antenna port right there, so you can connect an external antenna or even a stubby, I imagine, if you wanted to, depending on the kind of range. And you said the range on Bluetooth, on this particular Bluetooth, is what again?
All the specs, you should be going, everything we write is in meters.
Okay.
But it should go well over 100 meters. Mm-hmm. And the results may vary depending on the environment, how much noise there is in that, the Bluetooth 2.4 spectrum. But many other Bluetooth devices out there in the pro audio world are class 2, so they're much lower powered at about 5 to 10 milliwatt.
Got it. Okay, perfect. All right, we got more questions. Let's see. Oh, good. Bal, thank you for confirming that was Independence Day and that was Jeff Goldblum triangulating the position at the White House. That's perfect.
I think that might have been the second. I feel like I was a second one, not the Will Smith one released in I don't know.
No, that's the one. Because Will Smith went to space with Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum is the one that knows how to deliver the virus. I haven't seen the new one. I don't know that I will.
Now I'm going to have to rewatch Independence Day.
You should. We should do it together. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and maybe at NAB.
Maybe at NAB. We'll see. Or in Dallas. So we'll give it another minute here because there have been things rolling in. But who do you like in the football games this weekend?
I gotta tell you, I don't actually know who's playing in the football game this weekend.
Okay, I'll tell you. There's 2 football games.
Okay.
And I might be wrong, but it's Cincinnati versus Kansas City. So the Bengals versus the Chiefs, and then it's the San Francisco 49ers versus the LA Rams. So go. And then everybody base your picks and blame if you lose on Geoff.
I mean, I've heard a few people say that the Kansas City team does well, but I'm fairly certain it doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure the Patriots just win the Super Bowl by default. Like, if it happens, I've been told they just win it. I don't know. My wife calls me an elitist for this, but I'm much more of a Formula One fan. It's like high-end car racing.
How very European of you.
Yeah. It's just one of those things.
Well, if it's not Lightning McQueen, I'm not paying attention. So, perfect. Well, I think that we have exhausted the number of questions, and I certainly don't want to keep boring people with my odd movie knowledge or lack thereof. So, Geoff, I will say thank you very much for displaying the MRK16. Anybody that wants additional information, you can always leave comments on our YouTube video, Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can watch this video and more on GothamSound.tv, or as always, call Geoff at Wisycom. Geoff is really super helpful, but call us first. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thanks, Geoff.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.